Well, you would say it's more right-leaning, but that's like calling, I don't know, every Democrat a communist, and I wouldn't do that.
Define communism.
Okay, so we are back, and I genuinely was not expecting this one to go the direction that it went. So what you are about to watch is Dean, a progressive street debater, going head-to-head with multiple Trump supporters at a political event. And on paper it sounds like your standard back and forth, but what actually unfolds here is something else entirely. We are talking about a moment where someone gets asked to define a word they have been throwing around as a weapon this entire conversation, and completely falls apart on camera, like asks to be deleted, on camera. Do yourself a favor and stick with this one all the way through, because the ending is the kind of thing you genuinely do not see coming even when you think you do. Also, before we get into it, drop a comment and let me know where in the world you are watching this from. I always love seeing where you all are coming from, and it genuinely means a lot every single time. Alright, let's get into it.
You said one more 3 times. You said what? You said one more. You said one more 3 times. So here's my one. Do you support Trump?
I would say I do, but not in my capacity here. I'm really here to ask questions.
Okay, and I'm here to ask you a question. What's your favorite Trump policy?
I would say close the border.
That's not a policy, that's a phrase. How about your favorite Trump policy?
Okay. I think policy?
Yeah.
Well, I would say closing the border is a policy, right? It might not be the
So what policy has he passed to close the border?
Well, he's passed executive orders, right?
Executive orders, like which ones?
Well, I think they do the job. I can't tell you the exact title of the executive order.
So then you can't tell me an exact policy.
Well, would you disagree that immigration, there's going to be different policies on immigration, whether it's, be looser on immigration or be tougher on immigration? Don't you think that would be kind of like a...
I'd say that those are directions or themes, but not specific policies. And when it comes specifically to closing the border, I don't think Donald Trump has done that with good policy. I think that he's done it with fascism and human rights abuse.
How has Trump closed the border with fascism?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess we're both holding mics, so this is good. No, but anyways, I think that Donald Trump has reduced undocumented entry into this country by scaring it away, by violating the human and constitutional rights of the undocumented immigrants that are already here. Like, for instance, I could give you a couple good examples here. One example would be his illegal removal of Abrego Garcia to CICA in El Salvador, where he was beaten, tortured, and starved for 3 weeks, 2 weeks after the Supreme Court ruled that his removal was illegal, and the Trump administration had to facilitate his return home, which then led to the Trump White House going on Twitter saying that he's never coming back. We also see students being black bagged on campus, then taken to ICE detention centers 1,000 miles away, violating the withholding order that judges have made, or planes worth of Venezuelan immigrants being deported down to CICOT in an infringement of their Fifth Amendment right to due process. That's an abuse of our Constitution. That's an abuse of human rights, and I think maybe that's what scared new entry away. I'll give you one more question, but then I need to go get on. Last question, seriously.
What do you think about the Second Amendment?
I think that in a lot of scenarios, gun ownership can be a positive. I think that in a lot of scenarios, I mean, I'm a gun owner myself.
Yeah.
I have a 9mm handgun.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I also think that we have an epidemic of continued gun violence. So far this year, it's not even been 360 days. We've had over 400 mass shootings. And if introducing fair and common sense gun law and reform would reduce the amount of innocent children that are senselessly losing their lives across this country, I'm going to obviously support it, and you should too. But last question, I appreciate you for your time.
I appreciate you, man.
You have a good one.
So you mentioned Charlie Kirk earlier, but you did say that he was a fascist and fascists get what they deserve, or you said something similar to that. Do you have any opinions on that?
Roll the clip. Let me see the clip of me saying that.
Well, I don't have the clip on me.
Why not?
I'm not going to pull out my phone right now.
I think the reason why you want to be able to roll the clip is because that's not what I said. That didn't happen.
Is that what you believe or not?
Dude, you just said that. That's something that I said to you earlier on camera.
No.
So,
I meant you said that.
I just want to be clear.
Let me clarify.
Let me
say that to me.
So then who did I say it to?
What?
Who did I say it to?
You said it online. You
online?
did not say it to me, but do you believe that?
Wait, pull out your phone, roll the clip of me saying that online.
Well, what do you think about it?
No, I'm not going to answer any more questions.
You're not going to answer
pull out your
the question?
phone and prove what you just said.
Well, can't you just say that you don't think that Charlie Kirk was a fascist?
Pull out your phone and prove what you just said occurred.
Well, if I believe that...
Why aren't you willing to do that?
Well, why aren't you willing to answer the question?
Because you're unwilling to pull out your phone and prove what I just said. I believe...
This is the moment that tells you everything you need to know about how these conversations actually go. Dean asks a simple question. What is your favorite policy? Just one. Name one specific policy. And the answer he gets back is close the border. Dean immediately hits back and says, that's not a policy, that's a phrase, and he is 100% right about that. Here's what people don't realize. There is a massive difference between a direction and a policy. A direction is something like I want to lose weight. A policy is I will eat under 2,000 calories and exercise 4 times a week. You cannot govern a country on slogans. You cannot point to a bumper sticker and call it legislation. And when Dean presses further and asks which specific executive orders, the interviewer admits straight up, I can't tell you the exact title. That right there is the whole problem in one sentence. You have to understand how significant that is. This person came to a political event, walked up to Dean with a microphone, and cannot name a single specific policy from the administration they are defending. Not one. And this is not a gotcha trap. This is the most basic homework you could possibly do before showing up to debate someone. And then, after Dean methodically explains exactly how constitutional rights are being violated through specific real cases with names and court rulings, the interviewer wraps up and pivots immediately to a completely different topic. No counter, no rebuttal, just, okay, last question. What do you think about the Second Amendment? And that pivot alone tells you the border policy argument was already lost, because when someone has no response to your point, they change the subject every single time. But here is where it gets genuinely wild. The interviewer then accuses Dean of saying something online, something serious. And when Dean says, roll the clip, the interviewer admits they don't have it. And Dean refuses to move on. He plants his feet and says, pull out your phone and prove what you just said. That is exactly the right response. You do not let a false accusation slide just to keep the conversation comfortable.
In linear dialogue, and linear dialogue is the most productive means of conversation. And inside a linear dialogue, we go point by point. So, of course, we're going to start with the point that you made, which is on the internet. I said that Charlie Kirk is fascist and he deserves to die. How about this? It's not okay for either of us to lie.
Well, no, wait.
It's not okay for me to posit that you said on the internet that you're attracted to 15-year-old girls. It is not okay for you to say that you saw me on the internet say that Charlie Kirk was a fascist that got what he deserved. If we're going to accurately represent one another, that can't be a one-way street. It must be a two-way street where we're both engaging in an accurate representation of each other's character, which would first start on the basis of only making accusations of the other's character when good evidence would suggest that it is true. And you admitted that you didn't have any evidence for the allegation you made against me in your claim, arguing, right, that I said he's a fascist that got what he deserved. Thereby, you do view it as a one-way street where I must correctly represent your character. Can't say you said on the internet that you're attracted to 15-year-old girls, but when it comes the other way, you gotta say whatever you want. Thank you.
You're the steward.
No more questions. If you could apologize for incorrectly accusing me of arguing
Dean,
publicly on the internet that Charlie Kirk was a fascist that got what he deserved.
Dean.
Say, I'm sorry, Dean, and then I'll answer your question.
Dean, I am so sorry. Can you condemn
Now I want a ukulele in 5 tiers.
Dean, can you condemn people who say Charlie Kirk was a fascist?
2 tiers minimum and a ukulele.
Nah, that's crazy.
Well, listen, if you're not going to give me the 2 tiers minimum in the
ingenuine.
ukulele,
That would be ingenuine.
if you're not going to give me the 2 tiers minimum in the ukulele, how about this? Tell me what a fascist is.
What is a fascist? It's an authoritarian regime that wants to centralize control in one leader.
Okay, so in order for fascism to be true, there must only be one leader?
Well, I would say it's usually concentrated. The power
Usually.
is one leader, right?
Okay, so a concentration of power.
Well, is that an unfair definition?
Well, I mean, I think it's a workable one. So given the fact that you define fascism to include a usual concentration of power from multiple people to one person, would you argue that maybe something that we see from the Trump administration of an attempt to consolidate power to the executive branch, take it out of Congress or the Supreme Court, via his belligerent intentional attempt to just reinterpret the case law and precedent set forth by SCOTUS surrounding the 14th Amendment and how it grants birthright citizenship to the children born to undocumented immigrants on American soil through Executive Order number 14160 that he passed, attempting to basically say that they don't have birthright citizenship, trying to basically say that the Constitution's been wrong all along and I solely have the power to amend it, even though per the Constitution that's a power delegated to the near 500 people in the House of Representatives and Senate, or the power delegated to SCOTUS to reinterpret that would be a representation of a quote-unquote fascistic tendency.
You said a whole lot of stuff right there.
Okay, I'll condense it down.
Do I think Trump is a fascist? No.
No. The question that I'm asking you is, given the fact that your definition of fascism was to condense power from a large body of people to a singular person, that it would be fair to represent Donald Trump's attempt to do exactly that as a fascistic tendency.
This part of the conversation is where Dean does something that most people in debate spaces simply do not do well enough. He makes the standard apply equally to both sides. And that matters more than people give it credit for. He lays it out clearly. He says, it's not okay for me to posit that you said on the internet that you're attracted to 15-year-old girls. That line is not an attack. That is a logical mirror. He is showing the interviewer exactly how it feels to have a serious accusation thrown at you with zero evidence. And the interviewer admitted they don't have any evidence for the allegation. That admission is enormous. Because the whole point of accountability is that it cannot be a one-way street. Think about what accountability actually means historically. In legal tradition going back centuries, from English common law to the foundations of the American justice system, the burden of proof has always rested on the person making the claim. You do not get to accuse someone and then ask them to disprove it. That is not how truth works. Dean understood this and held the line perfectly. Then the conversation shifts into fascism, and here is where Dean does something genuinely sharp. Instead of arguing whether a label applies, he asks the interviewer to define it themselves. The interviewer says it's an authoritarian regime that wants to centralize control and one leader. Dean takes that definition and walks it directly back into the conversation about executive overreach and constitutional amendments being bypassed through executive orders. He does not impose the label. He lets the interviewer's own definition do the work. And the interviewer has no answer to that. Instead of engaging with the argument, they say, "You said a whole lot of stuff right there." That is not a rebuttal. That is someone who got cornered and is stalling. And then comes the line that sets up everything that follows. That's like calling every Democrat a communist.
And I wouldn't do that.
The moment that line lands, you already know what is coming next, because Dean heard it too.
Well, you would say it's more right-leaning, but that's like calling, I don't know, every Democrat a communist, and I wouldn't do that.
Define communism.
It is, what is communism?
Yeah.
It's when the government has control.
You're gonna have to delete this part, by the way.
When the government has control over industry.
You're already wrong.
Okay.
Because you want to know why you're wrong?
Well, I don't have the exact definition.
Because under communism, there's no government. Communism, understood
Okay,
easily, is a stateless, classless, moneyless society. So of course it wouldn't be fair for you to label all Democrats as a communist when you don't even know what communism is.
Well, I wouldn't label all Democrats communists.
Well, because you don't even know what a communist is, right?
Would you consider yourself a communist?
No, I don't consider myself a communist, thank you. So, can we agree that one of the many reasons why it would be unfair for you to label all Democrats as communists is because you don't even know what a communist is?
I would disagree with that.
But I asked you what a communist is, and the first thing that you said was some implication of the existence of a government and them controlling the means of production. But I thought that we just clarified under communism, there is no government because there's no state.
Well, yeah, you were right. I didn't have the definition on hand, but I still know what communism looks like.
But those two things are contradictory. You can't argue that communism is stateless, and under communism, the state controls the means of production. Can you agree that that is a strict contradiction?
Dean,
Don't pivot.
I'm here I'm a journalist. I'm not going to debate you.
Oh, this is the moment. This is what the whole clip has been building toward. And the interviewer handed it over completely on their own. The second Dean hears that communist comparison, he does not flinch. He does not let it slide. He asks one question. Define communism. Just define it. And what comes out is one of the most painful answers you will ever hear in a political conversation. The interviewer says it's when the government has control. And before he even finishes the sentence, he says, "You're going to have to delete this part, by the way." Let that sink in. He knew. Mid-sentence, he already knew he was wrong. That moment of self-awareness makes it even more extraordinary because he kept going anyway. Dean corrects it immediately and explains that under communism, there's no government. Communism, understood easily, is a stateless, classless, moneyless society. This is not a controversial academic position. This is the foundational definition that has been documented across political philosophy for over 150 years, going back to Marx and Engels. It is in every introductory political science textbook on the planet, and the interviewer did not know it. Here's what makes this so important beyond the embarrassment of the moment. The interviewer came into this conversation using communism as a political weapon, throwing it around as a label to dismiss an entire group of people. And when asked to define the weapon they were swinging, they could not do it. That is not a debate tactic. That is using words you do not understand to win arguments you have not earned. And then, the final line. After Dean points out the strict logical contradiction, the interviewer says, "I'm a journalist. I'm not going to debate you." After everything, after the false accusation, after the botched definition, after the deleted part moment, the exit is, "I'm a journalist." That ending speaks for itself. So what do you guys think of this? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.